Hey, what's going on, Jamie? How you doing?
I'm great. I'm so pleased to be beaming into Columbus, Ohio. As I was just telling you, I'm on a fantasy. My daughter's made me watch Crossroads with Britney Spears. I promise you, that's the only reason I watched it. I really kind of thought they made it amazingly, but what really excited me was I want to get a car and I want to drive across America again. I want to start in California and I want to go through New Mexico and I want to go through Colorado. I want to go to Chicago. I want to do that whole Americana thing. I'm also reading Paul Auster, the amazing author who died sadly about a month or two ago. He's been one of my absolute favorite fiction authors of all time, Paul Auster. He wrote Mr. Vertigo. He wrote this extraordinary thing called 4321 I read recently, which has all kinds of road trip moments. And I really just love that whole American. That's why I called my third daughter Memphis. I love that whole Americana, trailers, hubcaps, black coffee, diners, Detroit, um, American sports, great big wide roads, ridiculous. I mean, it's sad how the roads destroyed the rail system. America could have had the most amazing rail system, and you could have just gone all over the place on a train. But the oil companies and the car companies said, no, we're going to screw that up so that everyone has to use cars. Uh, but yeah, I just feel really drawn because of the literature I'm reading and the movies I'm watching. I just feel really, really attracted to America and I'm going on a major road trip.
Yeah, I have a friend he's from New York, and whenever he goes back up there, like he still takes the train all the way there and like all the way back. He won't compromise on that, and he loves traveling around and stuff and going out west. And that's something that I've been interested in, but I haven't jumped on. I have a relative in Idaho, and we went out and drove out there when I was a kid, and it was great. It was a great time, but it's been a while since I've done something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to also. I've got another fantasy. I once I normally, whenever I travel anywhere, especially like somewhere beautiful, I rent a scooter, like a 125cc scooter.
That's cool.
Just go around and
Yeah.
just like do the mountain paths and go. You can just explore much better. And the evening as the sun's going down, it's much nicer being on a bike than in a car.
Yeah.
And once when I was in India, I wanted to do the same because we were in a beautiful area and they didn't have any scooters in India at that point. They only had motorbikes. And they said,
Hmm.
do you know how to ride one of these? Oh, yeah, yeah, of course I do. I didn't at all. I had to work it out. I kind of knew what you were meant to do, but I'd never tried it. So I took it off. And after about an hour or two, I could ride it. You know, I could do the gears and I could stop and start safely. And I had an amazing motorbike journey around the middle of India. Um, Actually, maybe it was a little bit further north, I remember now. And I've since then had a real fantasy to do tip to tip, you know, like south all the way up to the Himalayas in the north
Yeah.
on a motorbike would be pretty great in India.
Do you go over there much?
I go over there as absolutely as often as I can find an excuse to go because it's like one of the last I mean, it's still very, very developed now. You know, of course, ever since the mobile phone arrived, last 20 years has been extreme
Yeah.
techno India. But there's still a lot of India that is absolutely not like that. You know, there's a lot of India that is still very rural, very, very real. Like I don't know how much Varanasi, which is there's a city called Varanasi, which is used to be called Banaras, or is it the other way around? Maybe it's now called Banaras. And it's on the Ganges, which is their sacred river.
Hmm.
And that's also the place where, when you die, they cremate you on the banks of the Ganges. And then the ashes just go into the river. And the Ganges is taken the ashes of like zillions of Indian people who have been ceremonially cremated there. If you're if you're a baby, you don't get cremated. You just get kind of a ceremony, and you get so the bed of the Ganges is many many baby skeletons. Um, it's just like this amazing experience of the reality of death when you go there, and that's never going to change. That's never going to have a Hilton.
You don't think so? You
No.
think do you think that they'll preserve it for like religious reasons and like they'll use that as a way to kind of keep all that out of there?
I wish, wouldn't that be great if there was somewhere in the world where that would happen? Sadly, I think pretty much every decision about architecture and about development and city planning is a financial one. If they think they're going to make tons of money by putting a Hilton there, there'll be a Hilton there.
Yeah.
No one's going to get. There's one thing I once heard, which I hope is not apocryphal story from some of my Icelandic friends, was that the government in Iceland, they were building a huge road system in the city, and just when they were nearly finished, they were starting the actual work, they realized that one of the parts of the road blocked off one of the folklore entrances to Fairy. Um, Icelandic has a very magical fairy tradition, and that this road was going to block one of the sort of portals, caves or whatever. So they redid the whole road system to make sure
Wow.
they didn't block the entrance to Fairy. Good one. Iceland are cool like that. Iceland and Finland, the
Yeah.
countries around there, they're supposed to be the most happiest people in the world.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
if you have a baby there, then you and your husband, can have 6 months off paid.
Wow.
They have really sorted it out because they have huge tax. But it's good to have huge tax if everybody's got really great quality of everything they need. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if it's being used in a way that everyone's happy with, then like, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I've seen some of the well, at least like photos and videos and stuff of some of the landscapes out there, and it looks unreal.
yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. So you've got this new album out now. How'd this come about?
Well, as you know, I've made a big career out of being the melancholy one, the melancholy singer, the sad, longing tunes, the internal album, all this sort of, yeah, a lot of longing. And I suddenly realized that when you create things, you create a field of energy. It's a very powerful magnetic force. For decades, I've been creating melancholy songs and melancholy albums and longing and yearning. And I suddenly realized, you know what? I've created a lot of that longing and yearning in my life. And I thought, I'm in my 50s now. I'm done with longing and yearning. I want having. Uh, and, uh, and I want to do some music that's a bit more joyful, a bit more upbeat, and a bit more sort of like moving forward. And I've also had a real love for conscious movement facilitators and dance teachers. I think they provide such an invaluable service on the planet. People who are getting groups, ecstatic dance DJs, people who are really getting people moving. And like it's such an important job. And they're very cool people who love nothing more than to get a room full of people moving, whether as DJs or teachers or facilitators. So Gabrielle Roth was one of my favorite people. She invented the five rhythms, which is a movement meditation practice. Some people call it the wave. She was a New Yorker. Yeah, so I put the word, as I always do when I'm about to have an idea for an album, is I put a message on Facebook and I say, who wants to be exploited? Who has their own studio set up and loves music? Do you want to make an album with me? Who's up for it? And some great producer usually will go me, as Matt Coldrick did this time, this wonderful meditation music maker, and he's a very cool guy. So I rented us an apartment on a Greek island called Corfu, and he set up his stuff. And it turned out I actually knew a couple of singers over there. One who's like this mad shamanic kind of, well, like he's
Yeah.
always making up his own language, sort of. Oh, he sounds like a mad shepherd to me.
So
Uh,
that language is made up? Like that wasn't an actual language in the
yeah,
vocals?
no, he's just improvising sound. It sounds
That's
brilliant.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this woman called Kaushalia, who is an Estonian folk singer. Estonia is like Eastern Europe. There's a lot of countries that, because I don't mean to be racist, or white male privilege English, I don't give a shit. But like for me, the countries of Estonia, Latvia, Slovenia, Slovakia, Lithuania, to me, I can't really visualize much between. It's
Yeah.
just from space, it's one lump of land, is all I'm saying.
Sure.
But this Estonian singer, she's brilliant. She plays like on a harmonium, one of those boxes that they have in India, like that gives you a drone. And they showed up, and so suddenly I had some grooves going, had some melodies I was singing, and they were working around those. And before we knew it, this lovely idea of an album called All Heart was born, and we must have made three-quarters of the tracks just on that first one week in Corfu. Just, oh, let's try this, let's try that. I love putting together different elements, and then at the end you go, there's a mystery to what will come out the other end of the conveyor
Yeah.
belt. Put this in this side of the machine, what's going to come out the other side? And I really enjoy doing that, and it came together beautifully. Came together beautifully, and now we're giving it away free to all the ecstatic dance DJs and asking them to share it on their playlists.
Yeah, could you explain conscious movement and ecstatic dance? I'm not totally familiar with those.
Yeah, so there's a way that your body wants to authentically move. So think about dancing. A lot of people, when they're dancing, we each of us, as the ancient Taoist Chinese people would say, who the ancient Taoists 2,000 years before Jesus were coming up with like Tai Chi, acupuncture, how energy moves in the body. They did the yin yang sign that I'm
Hmm.
sure you know. And the yang is we each have a yin and a yang quality. They call it masculine and feminine. Let's not get into that in these non-gender specific days. Yang is your doing, your will. I choose to do this. I'm going to make the world how I want. It's your expansive, outward going energy. So make choices, learn things, get to the end, get the qualification, make a phone call, take some action, make the world how you want it, impressing yourself upon the world. That's how we're taught to operate. But you also have the yin, which is the other half of us that doesn't get such a look in unless you're an artist, which is the receptive. I am moved by something. A great idea pops into my head. The way I am impacted, the way I. So when you're creating something, you're very much in that because you're listening for a song. You're not thinking up a song. And sometimes an idea pops into your head. That's receptive. When you're dancing, you let your body be moved by the beat. You kind of surrender to the beat. And so there's a way of dancing which is yang, which is I do this, I do that with my shoulder, where you have moves, and that's doing something on purpose. And there's a way of dancing which is yin, where you're just moved by the beat.
Hmm.
And that's a much more pleasurable way to dance. And it's a much more pleasurable way to live your life, to be moved by the beat rather than constantly having to, being yin, surrendering, letting go, go with the flow. These are all yin qualities that we could all do more of.
Yeah.
And so ecstatic dance is basically an extension of that. Is that they go deliberately to turn on their yin and be as moved as they can be and just really let it move them. They sometimes people do it for in particular like almost like psychotherapeutic ways, like dancing through your pain or dancing out
Hmm.
force or like shaking it through all the burdens and neurosis and stress of the week. They just dance it out and the body like untangles itself through the beat and you can shed all that sort of psychic weight. That's the healing side of how dance can be. And like a lot of these conscious movement facilitators, they get people to awaken parts of themselves that certain people that don't want to be so heady. They
Hmm.
don't want to do the kind of therapy where you have to list everything that happened in your childhood and analyze what you might be feeling. That's all very conceptual and in the brain, and it has its value. But we exist in a big body, and it doesn't always want to talk. It doesn't want to get specific about the details. It just sometimes wants to process that stuff through movement.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that seems to be why the arts are so compelling to people because like you don't have to be so in your head about it. And like there's a different kind of method that people seem drawn to. So is this kind of just them like helping people just like let themselves do that and not be like so worked up and kind of blocked up about those kinds of things?
Very much, and also have a really great time. It's very
Yeah.
social. When you get a 50 or 100 people all doing a five rhythms class, they become a tribe. It's not the kind of dancing where you're looking at anyone looking good. It's not the kind of dancing where you stand opposite someone and you dance together. Although so often they do say pick a partner and you really, but you're not dancing, as I said, to be groovy. Exactly. You're dancing to just see what your body wants to authentically do. And sometimes the person dancing with you will start doing things that like get your body to start because you're very yin and receptive to each other. And sometimes they do it so that you're in a circle and they one of the rhythms they dance is chaos, which is like absolutely throwing yourself around in a really let go way. It really is very powerful to do. And they really support each other because there's a vulnerability in doing it, like it's
Yeah.
not concentrating so much on looking pretty. So they have a big circle of them all like clapping and jumping with the beat pumping, and someone or a few people go into the middle and just go fucking crazy, throw themselves around. Then they go back to the edge, and a few more people go into the middle, and there's like this holding space thing. It's very generous and tribal, and probably what we could really do with more tribal community supporting each other experiences like that. Nowadays I'm like, no, I'll be on my laptop watching Netflix. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Uh, but the times when I do actually connect with groups of people, I'm always glad that I did, although I dread it in advance.
Yeah, there is something funny to that. Like there's a little bit of a resistance that you have to kind of push through, and then often like whenever you do, you're kind of like, okay, that was actually fun. But like a little bit before, you're kind of like, I kind
Well,
of this gets canceled.
our ego wants to control how good we look.
Yeah,
You can't do that all the time when you're in public.
yeah.
It's
It-
tricky.
yeah, is this an album that you would like to see used in those practices, like played for one of
Yeah,
those
it
sessions?
very much already is being.
Cool.
People are telling me, "Oh, I played this track, I played that track. They love this one, they love that one." We gave it away before we released it to the public at the website, which is
Mm,
allheart.life. We said to all the DJs and conscious dance movement people, we want to give it to you free 3 months before it is given to the public. And about 650, 700 people downloaded it, different teachers from around it was downloaded in about, yeah, about 46 different countries
cool.
of people from, Georgia, Russia, China, Korea, all the sort of European countries, America, of course, all over the place. It was pretty much loads of African, pretty much most countries I'd heard of, somebody downloaded it. And that's a really nice feeling.
What aspect of making the music were you most were you most involved with?
Well, thinking up the what it was going to be, what the elements were going to be, and then composing backing tracks with
Yeah.
Matt, and being the guy that says, could we do it like this? Could we do it like that? Could we have a beat that sounds like this? Could we have the Bulgarian kitchen singer? There's in Bulgaria, they have these women that get together in the kitchen and they sing these amazing long atonal harmonies together. Um, it's called Voices of Something. I can't remember. I wanted that kind of like groovy thing, but this kind of slightly edgy thing over the top. They were brilliant. So just coming up with what we'll put in and just directing it with Matt, for like how he needs more of this or less of that. And then, like Picasso says, your aim in this life is to find what you love and give it away.
Mm,
you know. So
yeah.
we have, we hope people will buy it. But if somebody wants it and they don't have any money, then we're not going to not give it to them.
Yeah.
Send the workshops, like we want everyone to pay for the ticket price. We need to buy pasta for the kids. Uh, but but we're never going to say it's very hard to turn people away for money reasons. I've never been a fan of that, especially with self-development. It's like, really, like,
Right.
you've been given this wisdom, or you've been given this articulation by God or by the great creative spirits. It's not yours exactly. So on my teacher training, I give away my whole body of work to the students all at the end. I said, take all the games, break them into bits, do what you want with them. They're now your games. I really think it's good to keep the juices flowing, keep it, keep giving it away, giving it away, giving it away. They'll always, if you keep giving it away, then there's leave space for something new to come in. But if you hold on to it too tight, then you've crowded out the warehouse.
Yeah. How does it influence things for you to be able to have somebody like Matt, I think was his name, the
Yeah,
producer,
Matt Coldrick.
yeah, to have somebody else who can kind of handle some of the more like technical aspects of it. Like is that freeing for you in a way?
It's totally not only freeing, it's essential because as you'll know if you ever come to the studio, keep Jamie away from the computer. I have no idea how the software works. If I
Yeah.
didn't have a guy that I could say, could we have a beat like this? Could you bring me up a bass sound? Could we have a this? Could we have a that? They also chuck in their bits creatively too, of course. It's not just serving me. But that would be great. Um, so it's a mixed bag, but yeah, exactly. I'm only good at either playing things on an instrument to compose some notes or a keyboard, singing something in, having an idea of we need one of these, we need that Bulgarian choir, but to actually technically be able to point a microphone something and make sure it's going through the right channel and the right sound quality, kill me now. There are
Yeah.
some people that lived for that. They can't wait to run in and out of the live room, tilt the bass microphone a quarter of an inch and run back and listen to it. Like the people live for that technical shit. I find it like it makes me want to, even just telling you about it, my body starts to feel claustrophobic. It's just something I have no skill for.
Yeah, whenever you look at those interfaces, like it gets intimidating immediately. Like there's so much to them.
Yeah, I don't like it. I've never liked it. Um, so I really like being the one at the back and not touch. And it's actually nice for the other half because he likes not having anyone else touching the computer. The person touching the computer likes having it all to themselves and that they have their own system of, the different colors of the tracks and like they have their own way of doing it. Like so, yeah, I'm very, very happy to do it the way I do it.
Yeah.
I like it. But the problem with that is you always need someone else. But in
Right.
another way, I always need someone else anyway, because with all creative projects, for me, I will never get on with it, no matter how great the idea is. I would much rather just be sort of sitting around reading books, looking out the window, not getting on with it. So the only way I always need a partner in a project, and the only way I can ever get started work is I have to say to you, let's start Monday morning at 10:30, come round to my house. And then you ring the doorbell, and it doesn't matter how resistant I'm feeling, it's far too embarrassing to actually come all the way to my house and then not do
Yeah.
the thing. So it's a way I kind of put myself in a position where I can't not work. Because if any excuse not to do anything, I all kinds of things that get in the way of the very important business of me sitting on my ass not doing anything. I'm very carefully vetted. So I have to kind of force myself into it.
So you're someone who very much lives in like the idea space, and having somebody who's like more hands-on in like the craftsmanship kind of way is
Yeah,
is
definitely. The
is
physical.
yeah,
I
helps
need
you
that.
bring the things like to life a lot more.
Yeah. And that's why it was so great, like doing the Ramdas movie, Becoming Nobody, because there was already all this footage. So it was just my
Yeah.
vision of just going, oh, let's start with the stuff about the ego. But the sort of the I didn't need to kind of we had to shoot a lot of imagery to go with what he was saying, but the actual kind of meat and potatoes of the content was already done. It was just a question of arranging it in a way that made sense to my soul.
Yeah. What instruments do you play?
I play clay pot, which is also called udu, which is basically a big bulbous pot with a hole, and when you hit the hole, it goes doom 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 doom, tak 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 doom doom. I love that. I sing. I play keyboards and guitar enough to compose things. I rarely perform with them, but I did this week. I did a concert with two of my beautiful daughters backing, and we all sang songs together in the Waiting Campfire concerts, which was a lovely gig. They set up the stage with like candles and really nice. And I played guitar fine, you know, but I can play guitar for like my songs, but I could never jam along. I don't know the keys and the scales to jam along with people and play lead. I could never, I'd have to be told the chords and I could just sort of strum along clumsily. Do you play
Yeah.
anything?
Not really. Like keys a little kind of, but I'm terrible. So like not really. But for for you guys in making this, like how much of it were you guys using like organic um or like analog sounds? Like how much were you like going to like the
Huh?
virtual instrument world?
Well, so we would start with a beat, which would be digital,
Mhm.
or start with some chords I'd played into the piano, which might be also digital. I mean, it's not an analog piano, but you're still playing it in. But
Yeah.
then you can also make that into a synthesizer noise, whatever. Just playing some chords,
Yeah.
sing over them. That's analog. And then after that, everything's analog, pretty much. Like we stick in some wibbly wobbly, shadowy, discordant noises, because otherwise it can all get very sweet. It's
Hmm.
very important to have a bit of haunted discord, something that's a bit shadowy and shady that kind of gives the sweetness a counterpoint. Otherwise, it's just saccharine, um, and that's often digital. But all the singers and are organic, of course, and the guitars are organic, and like the harmonium. It's as much organic as you can be, and then you add the kind of textures
Yeah.
afterwards to make sure that it's like adding spices. You may have made a lovely soup, but it really does need a bit of pepper, or it needs a little bit of something that isn't that, yeah, cooking is a good example. Yeah, thank you for asking me that. Um, but it's really funny how, like, there's certain tracks where you think it's okay, and then you have one little idea and you go, let's just add this. Like there was one track on the album which was a beautiful prayer, Estonian prayer called
Hmm.
Sun Song. It's just a very simple her singing over a harmonium. But I could just hear when I was hearing it. We were thinking, shall we have it on the album? Because we didn't really exactly compose it. It was just her saying, can I play you this lovely Estonian folk song? We're like, yeah, great. We weren't sure it was definitely going to be on the album. And I'm like, can you hear? I can hear a tempo underneath this that isn't there, but would fit. Can we just put a beat that goes, like a really quite a heavy hip hop beat with this? And he goes, yeah, I can hear it too. And we put the beat on and we put a bass line with it, and suddenly it just became a whole different fucking prospect. And it became like my favorite track on the album at that moment. Sometimes it's wonderful when that happens. You just have a little idea and you go, just what would happen if we just actually did this? It's like, whoa, that sounds amazing. And suddenly a track that was never really going to probably be on the record is now this one of the central tracks of the record.
Yeah.
It's great.
So how much of the development of the songs were like adding things in deliberately to get like a certain thing out of it? Like you mentioned the kind of the tension with like one of the darker aspects to like complement is like the
Yeah.
softer aspect of the music. Like how much of it was that and how much of it was like just kind of random random things that you just tried?
Yeah, it's difficult to answer. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like you're doing it you're deliberately adding the elements that you think might work, but how they work is a great mystery each time. Like Igor, the male vocal.
Yeah.
I knew he did kind of shamanic singing, but I'd never heard him go, ah, like kind of go and do his thing. Um, And then suddenly over one of the tracks, the Namaze track was the first time we tried with him, which is like the second track of the record. It's the track everyone loves best and is doing all the remixes for at the moment. Um, he just like, again, this mad shepherd. I asked him to be a mad shepherd, but I didn't realize he'd be that much of a mad shepherd. I just love the idea of those calls when the shepherds are calling for their animals high up in the mountains. They're loud, and they have often their own different phrases and different things that their own little kind of language to speak to the sheep or the goats or whatever. And they're calling to them over the rocks, and it just sounds like that lovely, very rural, tribal almost thing. And it could be in India, it could be in Turkey or somewhere, I don't know. And he kind of heard me saying all that. He went, okay. And off he went. And it was like perfect.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's exactly what I wanted. Thank you. High energy. No one knows what you're fucking talking about, but we're with you.
But it kind of feels like that's perfect for a conscious movement, like you were talking about making the album kind of in dedication to, because like not having uh always some kind of like word or phrase or message that you're like getting wrapped up in here about even though
Not being so
there
heady
was
and concepty in lyrics, but
yeah.
just a feeling that goes straight to the body. Exactly.
Yeah. How many songs did you guys make, and like how did you go about cutting it down?
We kind of didn't have that many more than we used. I think we had a couple more. Um, we didn't have the luxury of being, he lives in on a different island in Greece. I live in the UK, so some of it was done by chucking things back and forth in the internet. We didn't have that many sessions where we got together. We had like 3 or 4 weeks, so there wasn't so much. It wasn't like one giant leap where you had 1,000 hours. You had to
Yeah.
put, you know, and so yeah, no, it wasn't a lot of cutting down. It was like, wow, I think that's 8 really great tracks. Wow. But came very quickly. It was a very strange feeling to go from let's just have this idea and then so quickly it's like, wow, it's such an amazing feeling as an artist, having an idea in your head and then it existing as a film or as a piece of music or as a painting. It's like you're bringing things out of the fairy realm, you're bringing things out of the etheric, non-physical realm, the idea realm, whatever that is. You can't really, no one knows.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it exists as matter, as form on Earth, and people can pay a ticket and go and see it. I mean, it's on a screen and it's got credits and a barcode, and it's a very, very wonderful part of my life is taking things from an idea into reality. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, before we wrap up here, do you have anything else that you'd like to say about the album or where people can access it, things like that?
Thank you so much. It's you can get it. It's on Spotify. If you just go to my name, Jamie Catto, or tap in All Heart or both, you'll see the album. You can listen to it. If you actually want to buy it, which we would love, you can go to the website allheart.life. It's probably on iTunes and all the other places. I hope that our distribution CD Baby sent it to all the places where you might buy music. And if you're a crazy remixer and you'd like to remix one of the tracks, come and find me. I'm easy to find. And that's about it. Yeah. Thank you
Cool.
so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Jake.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on and congrats on getting that out. It was cool to hear from you again and cool to catch up and listen to it.
Yeah, totally. You got any Europe plans?
Europe? Not that I know of, but potentially I have some friends that are really interested in travel, so it's never yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, you're so great at interviewing, to go off around Europe and ask, like what everyone in America thinks. I hope you weren't too traumatized watching that debate the other night.
Oh, oh man.
I mean, I was watching through my fingers at one point. And when he did the thing where he just totally loses his thread and starts saying the
Yeah.
wrong thing, no, you're gonna make Trump win.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I will say the golf argument was one of the funniest things I've seen, like like darkly comic things that I've
Can you
seen in
imagine
American
Biden trying to
politics.
take a golf shot? He'd,
It's
he'd break. He'd snap like a twig.
just him and Trump. They wrap up the debate going back and forth about who has a better
Golf.
golf score. It was like the most Trump Biden, like, and the way that they carried it out too is like the most Trump Biden clip I've seen.
Yeah. There's 200 million people in your country. There
Yeah.
must be some cool people. You're cool. I'd vote for you. I think you'd be great. You're handsome, you're personable, you're intelligent. Have you ever thought about, nipping in there? Because apparently they're thinking of who to replace Biden with at the moment. There's a big scare. Maybe you could go down there.
I've got like a decade and a half left before I'm eligible, but
But you have to be a certain age.
35 plus.
Ah, okay. Well, I think I'm voting for you.
I'm not, but I appreciate it.
Well, let me
Yeah,
know if
who
you're in
knows?
Europe, because I think, you
Okay.
could do a really good little thing interviewing people and like how the other half live, how the people outside America are,
I would love that.
I think you could do it really well. And you should
Yeah.
it's always good to have something to do when you're traveling. You're
Yeah.
mainly traveling and doing what you're doing, but just an hour or two every day, you do a little interview, a little this and that.
I
You
would
end
love
up with
to.
content. Yeah. Think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right, man.
All right.
Really wonderful to
Cool.
see you. I appreciate you inviting me on. That's really
Yeah,
generous. Thank you, bro.
you too, man. Have a good one.